In the morning, Jerry drove his two daughters, Rachel and Connie, to school. Traffic was jammed, the radio played news, and the children sing in the back seat. Jerry was devoted to his family. He jokes with his wife Karen and told the girls to be ready for pancakes. The news reported strange rabies outbreaks happening in other countries. Just as he was listening carefully, a speeding police car shattered his side mirror and raced off. Confused, Jerry got out of the car to check the damage. Suddenly, several police cars sped past him, one after another. As Jerry turned back to his car, a massive explosion erupted from a nearby building. A police officer yelled at him to get back into his vehicle immediately, but suddenly an out-of-control truck slammed into him, sending him flying. Jerry, a former United Nations investigator, instantly knew something was terribly wrong. His instincts kicked in, and he decided to follow the speeding vehicle. Taking advantage of the path cleared by the truck, he sped away from the chaos. But just then, Rachel had an asthma attack from fear. As Jerry turned to comfort her, an ambulance crashed into their car, flipping it over. The powerful impact stunned Jerry and Karen for a moment. Thankfully, everyone was all right. Outside, however, everything had descended into chaos. Crowds of people had somehow become infected, acting like zombies, attacking and biting anyone in sight. The street quickly turned into a horrifying nightmare. Seeing more and more people transforming around him, Jerry grabbed Connie immediately. He and Karen found an RV nearby with keys still inside. Suddenly, a group of zombies rushed toward them. Karen bravely kicked one away, and Jerry swung the wheel sharply to shake off another. They raced out of the city as fast as possible. Within just a few short minutes, the entire state of Pennsylvania had fallen to the zombies. Jerry drove until they reached a remote countryside area. Rachel's asthma worsened, forcing Jerry to stop. Just then, Jerry received a phone call from his old colleague Thierry, now the Deputy Secretary General at the UN. Thierry promised to send a helicopter to rescue them by nightfall. Clearly, Thierry had no idea what was going on either. But right now, their priority was finding Rachel's inhaler. Soon, Jerry discovered a supermarket in a small town, but it was already in chaos. People desperately fought over supplies. Time was running out, so Jerry's family split up into two groups. Jerry took Rachel to find the inhaler, while Karen and Connie searched for food. Suddenly, Jerry heard Connie's terrified screams. Two men were attacking Karen, trying to rob her. Jerry rushed to help, but one man pulled out a gun immediately. Without hesitation, Jerry fought back. Two quick shots later, the man dropped to the ground. Unfortunately, a police officer saw everything. Jerry raised his hands to explain, but the officer ignored him, grabbing food from the shelves instead. The family quickly fled the store, but the RV they parked outside was gone. Jerry urgently contacted Thierry again for help. He learned the helicopter wouldn't arrive until the next morning. Thierry advised Jerry's family to hide in a nearby building. Having no choice, Jerry led his family toward the designated location. Just as they turned the corner, a loud explosion up ahead made everyone panic. Before they could react, a zombie dropped from the sky and slammed onto the roof of their car. Seconds later, a horde of zombies came charging at them. Jerry quickly led his family into an apartment building, but the zombies followed close behind. In the narrow stairwell, Jerry and his family were attacked several times. In a moment of desperation, they found an uninfected survivor's apartment. Without thinking twice, Jerry brought his wife and daughters inside. After a night of rest, Jerry tried to convince the man to come with them and take the helicopter, but the man refused. He believed stepping outside was certain death. Jerry didn't argue. Instead, he began crafting makeshift weapons to fight off the zombies. As dawn approached, the family prepared to head for the rooftop. They quietly made their way to the stairwell, but suddenly a zombie leapt out. Jerry reacted fast and shot it in the head. The loud gunshot alerted the others. Chaos broke out instantly. The family ran desperately toward the rooftop, but the zombies were too fast and closed in on them quickly. Jerry swung his weapon wildly, trying to buy time for his wife and daughters to escape, but there were too many of them. Soon, Jerry was tackled to the ground. Even worse, zombie blood dripped into his mouth. Just as he was about to die, a gunshot saved him. It was Tommy, the young boy from the survivor's apartment. A few minutes earlier, after Jerry left, a group of zombies broke into the apartment. Tommy was the only one who managed to escape. Once they reached the rooftop, Karen lit a flare to signal the helicopter. Soldiers spotted them right away, but Jerry slowly walked toward the edge of the building, counting to 12 in his mind, watching for any signs of infection. Luckily, nothing happened. The rescue chopper arrived at the rooftop. Zombies followed close behind. Two soldiers opened fire, holding them off. Taking his chance, Jerry sprinted toward the helicopter. Under the cover of gunfire, he managed to climb aboard in time. Flames rose below. Through the window, Jerry saw the city swallowed by chaos. He realized this disaster was unlike anything he'd ever faced. They were flown to a U.S. Navy vessel in the Atlantic, which now served as a command center and refugee camp. After settling his family in, Thierry told Jerry that the U.S. president and most of the top military leaders were dead. The government had completely collapsed. According to intel, the world had already fallen into full-scale infection. The virus was spreading out of control. Air travel was the only functioning system left, but so far, no one truly understood what the virus was. The only real clue came from an email sent by Camp Humphreys in South Korea, which was the first to use the word zombie. Thierry told Jerry that if they could get to the source and collect a sample, a vaccine might be possible. He asked Jerry to escort a virologist doctor, Fastback, to gather information. Jerry refused. He had finally retired and all he wanted was to stay with his wife and daughters, but the naval commander warned him that if he didn't help, his family would be removed from the ship and left to fend for themselves. Out of love and duty, Jerry reluctantly agreed. Karen urged him to go and return safely. She hugged him tightly and told him to come back. The girls held on to him, showing how strong their family bond was. Then Jerry boarded the plane bound for South Korea. Late at night, the plane finally landed at a deserted base. The silence around them showed that this place had already fallen. Everyone grew tense. Suddenly, in the dark, a swarm of zombies charged at them. Several soldiers were quickly taken down. Dr. Fastback panicked and turned to run, but he stumbled and fell. His gun accidentally went off, and he shot himself by mistake. The sudden shock left Jerry stunned. Just then, a group of station soldiers rushed in to help. Captain Speak signaled that they needed to leave immediately. There was no time to think. Jerry had no choice but to follow the squad and fight their way out. Soon, they made it back safely to the base. Now that the virologist was dead, the mission fell to Jerry. From Speak, he learned that zombies were highly sensitive to sound. Shooting their bodies could only slow them down. The only way to kill them was a headshot. Speak then brought Jerry to the lab, but everything there had already been burned down. On the bed lay the remains of the second infected person, a military doctor from the camp. He had been investigating the cause of death of the first infected, but unexpectedly, the dead man came back to life. The unprepared doctor was bitten and unknowingly brought the virus back to camp, which started the outbreak, but the true origin of the infection remained a mystery. Strangely, the zombies hadn't attacked a soldier who had a limp. He was standing in the middle, yet the zombies ignored him completely. Just as everyone thought he was lucky, a prisoner nearby spoke up. He said that 2 weeks before the outbreak, Israel had already started building 300-foot-high wall at the border. Clearly, they knew something. To find out more, Jerry needed to go to Jerusalem and find a man named Jurgen Wormbrunn. Whether it was true or not, Jerry decided to go himself. But before they could leave, the plane had to be refueled. The path to the tarmac was surrounded by zombies. Any noise could mean instant death. To make sure nothing went wrong, Captain Speak ordered the troops to stay on high alert. Jerry and the pilot Gregory quietly rode bicycles toward the plane. But just as they were about to arrive, Karen suddenly called using the satellite phone. The loud ringtone drew the zombies' attention. The hidden soldiers opened fire to cover them. Speak managed to finish refueling at the last second, but he was bitten during the attack. Jerry made it onto the plane safely, but the other soldiers were all killed. After flying for several hours, the plane finally reached Jerusalem. After identifying himself to air traffic control, a man came to bring him to Wormbrunn's office. Jerry explained why he had come. Wormbrunn got straight to the point. He said they had accidentally intercepted an encrypted document. It mentioned India was fighting off zombies. Even though the report wasn't confirmed, Israel's 10th man policy required them to prepare for the worst-case scenario, and Wormbrunn was the one assigned to act on that rule, so he made the call to build the giant wall for defense. After speaking, Wormbrunn took Jerry to the border. The entire city looked well organized. They were even helping refugees from outside, but as the camera zoomed out, a completely different world appeared beyond the wall. Countless zombies swarmed like ants, circling the perimeter. Just as everything seemed under control, a huge number of zombies started moving in one direction. It turned out the refugees were celebrating their survival, and some of them were singing loudly with microphones. They had no idea a wave of zombies was rushing toward them. The creatures piled on top of each other, climbing up the tall wall at an alarming speed. Jerry tried to shout and warn them, but it was already too late. The zombies had climbed over the barrier and came crashing down like a rainstorm. The cheerful celebration turned into chaos in an instant. Armed soldiers started firing immediately, but it was useless against such an overwhelming number. Bullets barely slowed them down. Within minutes, this so-called unbreakable fortress had fallen. Survivors began to flee in every direction, but Jerry saw something strange. The zombies didn't attack an old man. They also ignored an emaciated boy who didn't manage to escape. There was no time to think about it. Survival was all that mattered now, but zombies were everywhere, and escape was nearly impossible. The group hid inside a residential building. Suddenly, they were surrounded front and back. A female soldier named Sagan was bitten on the wrist while protecting Jerry. Jerry acted fast and used a knife to cut off her arm. Fortunately, the virus didn't spread through her body. At that moment, the rescue helicopter arrived outside the house. Jerry helped Sagan toward the chopper, but the zombies didn't give them a chance to escape. They jumped straight at the helicopter. Within seconds, it spun out of control and exploded in midair. The airfield was already packed with people. The pilot who had been waiting fled in panic. Jerry arrived just in time to see the plane taking off without them. With no options left, the group raised their weapons and stopped another departing passenger jet. Jerry and Sagan climbed aboard using the escape ladder near the cockpit. They found seats inside, but the other passengers were staring outside in horror. Jerry looked too, only to see thousands of zombies attacking the people left behind. It was a hellish scene. He took a deep breath, then turned to rebandage Sagan's arm. Looking at her severed limb, he remembered the limping soldier, the old man, and the emaciated boy. Suddenly, something clicked in Jerry's mind. He quickly contacted Thierry and said he might have found a way to fight the zombies. But first, he needed to test it at the nearest WHO facility. Thierry used his status to inform the pilot, who agreed to reroute the plane to an airport in Cardiff, Wales, where the closest vaccine research center was located. Several hours later, Jerry was woken by loud barking from the cabin's little dog. A flight attendant, confused, opened the storage bay. The next second, a zombie attacked her. Panic broke out inside the cabin. Sensing something was wrong, Jerry pulled open the curtain and froze at what he saw. He motioned for everyone to stay quiet. Then he grabbed a carry-on bag and tried to block the connecting aisle. The others joined in, but during the chaos, a man dropped his suitcase. The sound immediately drew the zombies' attention. The makeshift barrier was torn apart in seconds. Jerry grabbed a small bag and used it to fight back. The narrow cabin filled with screams. Seeing things spiraling out of control, Jerry grabbed a grenade from Sagan's belt and without hesitation, tossed it toward the right wing of the plane. A loud explosion ripped a hole in the fuselage. Zombies were sucked out instantly, but the blast also damaged the engine. They avoided a full-blown attack, but now the plane was crashing. Jerry helped Sagan back to her seat, tightened the seatbelt around the waist, and braced for impact. The turbulence sent the plane nosediving toward the ground. With a thunderous crash, the aircraft broke in two. No one knew how much time passed before Jerry finally regained consciousness in his seat. The wreckage around him was in pieces. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his stomach. A metal rod had pierced straight through him. He didn't dare pull it out. Then he heard footsteps behind him. Sagan, incredibly, had also survived. The two of them helped each other and made their way to the research center. But Jerry's injuries were too severe, and he passed out at the entrance. When Jerry finally woke up again, it had already been days. Meanwhile, on the UN command ship, the naval commander learned that Jerry's plane had gone down. His wife, daughters, and Tommy were kicked off the ship and relocated to a refugee camp in Nova Scotia. When Jerry heard the news, he was furious. He had risked his life trying to find the virus origin, and this was how they treated his family? But his sense of duty pushed him to keep going. He told the WHO doctors about the strange things he had seen, how the zombies seemed to avoid certain people. Jerry believed the zombies were only attacking healthy hosts because they needed a strong body to carry the infection. That's why they ignored people who looked weak or sick. It seemed random, but it was actually the virus's biggest weakness. If someone could appear sick enough, maybe the zombies wouldn't attack them. They could use a drug to mimic illness or find another way to disguise themselves. The WHO doctor suddenly had a realization, but to test the theory, they had to go to the P4 lab in another building. Only that lab had live pathogens. The problem? It was already overrun with zombies. If they made a sound, they were as good as dead. Still, if they wanted the pathogens, they had no choice. After suiting up with basic protection, Jerry, Sagan, and a doctor entered a tunnel toward the lab. They moved slowly, holding weapons, listening for any sound. The scattered mess on the ground showed that a brutal fight had happened here. As they got closer to the storage room, they saw more and more zombies. No one dared to make a sound. But the doctor accidentally bumped into a cabinet. A zombie woke up instantly. Sagan reacted fast and shot it in the head. The loud noise shattered the silence. Zombies rushed at them from all sides. The group turned and ran. Zombies chased them down the hall. To buy time, Jerry decided to distract the zombies by himself. He told the other two to get to the lab while he banged a metal bar on the stairs, drawing the zombies away. In the chaos, Jerry ducked into a lab room and used the door structure to block some of the pursuers. Meanwhile, Sagan and the doctor were also under attack. Zombies poured in non-stop. Things were getting worse by the second. They had no choice but to retreat. Zombies chased them right to the safe zone. At the last second, they rushed through the door, and the other doctor slammed it shut, keeping the zombies out. Back on the other side, Jerry finally reached the P4 lab. He looked around carefully. Most of the zombies had followed the noise, so he found the pathogen storage room easily. Staring at all the vials and containers, Jerry fell into despair. He had no idea which one could help. With time running out, he grabbed a box and packed all the possible samples. Just as he was about to leave, a zombie stood at the exit, staring at him. He couldn't leave. Time was ticking. He looked at the box in his hands. A crazy idea flashed through his mind. He picked up a syringe. Looking at the unmarked pathogens, Jerry hesitated. Then he wrote a final message to the camera. He bet everything by randomly injecting himself with an unknown pathogen. Minutes passed. Jerry held the box and pressed the glass door release. And then, a miracle happened. The zombie walked right past him, completely ignoring him. Everyone watching was stunned. They burst into tears of joy. Jerry's theory had worked. In the hallway, Jerry casually opened a drink, chugged it, and made loud noises on purpose. Zombies came running, but none of them attacked him. In the end, with Thierry's help, Jerry was reunited with his family. Thanks to his discovery, nations developed vaccines and airlifted them all over the world. Humanity had hope once again.